Live? Okay. It's a bit different than before. Looks like I'm centered. Okay. All right, so I just felt like going live today. I was watching a video and having some thoughts, and I was like, I could go on a rant. Just got an idea and felt like I could go on a rant. And I kind of wanted to do it in front of an audience. And I know nobody watches me. I'm not an idiot. I know no one's going to tune in. No one's going to watch this live. And I don't care. Honestly, I really don't care because people can watch the replay. I know I have people who will at least do that. So that's who I'm talking to right now. It is my 23rd birthday, coincidentally. I don't think that's why I'm going live, but I called it birthday stream anyway, hoping maybe that would get some attention. Maybe people would watch it, and I could get a little bit of live interaction. But I can't be long today because I have an appointment. So I have to leave in about 40 minutes. Not going anywhere, it's a phone call. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to venting. If you can hear a vacuum upstairs, disregard it. It's just going to be happening. So, what was I thinking about? What do I want to vent about? You're probably wondering. Hopefully, you're wondering. You may be wondering why I have been gone too. I'll start with that. So, I don't have an explanation. It really was just I didn't feel like doing it. Like that's it. And I didn't want it to be inauthentic. I didn't want to force myself to do live streams if I didn't have anything to say, you know? I didn't have anything to say. I don't know what else to tell you. I ran out of interest in it, so I stopped. But I'm back. Maybe I'll do it a little more frequently again. Who knows? I was going through a bit of a funk too. I needed some time to myself. I wasn't feeling the live streams, but I'm a little bit more of in a productive headspace. I want to feel like I'm contributing something to the world. You know, I don't want to feel like I'm just soaking up life. I want to feel like I'm actually giving back a little something. So this is my way of doing that. Yeah, so I was watching a video of this guy. It was on this account that has a bunch of different people. It isn't like one guy talking about stuff, but the Instagram account I stumbled across is called The Woke Mind Virus. And I almost titled this stream that, but The Woke Mind Virus. And it's not satire, it's just posting videos that people think are a representation of leftist ideology. And, you know, they call them radical leftists and stuff. And I was watching this one video on this account, and I noticed something that I think a lot of people gloss over. There is a very common tactic that is used among right-wing people to try to attack the left. You know, sometimes they'll try to attack the left, sometimes they'll try to defend themselves or defend their cult leader, Donald Trump. But, you know, they never really do it. They're very predictable. Ooh, I see somebody tuned in. Hello. Hopefully whoever tuned in is actually going to leave a comment and let me know that they're there. No, they left. Never mind. I am monitoring another YouTuber's live streams, and it made me want to, well, I did one, but it made me want to do my own, and it made me feel more passionate seeing the way she does hers. behind the scenes just made me feel like, you know, I kind of like doing that. I like being in front of the camera. Monitoring someone else's live stream is not my thing. I want to be there, you know? Like I am so talkative and I love having an audience and I love having interaction and feeling like I can help people. Like people can ask me questions and I can provide answers or suggestions or information. Um, I want to share what's in my head with the world. So, like I was saying, I think that there are specific tactics that they resort to and they're very predictable. You know, they're not very creative. So once you get their number, it's very, very easy to outsmart them. And it revolves a lot around whataboutism. So I'll tell you the example of the video I was watching. Basically, the point that this guy was making, it was in the context of banning books, and he was using some examples of books that were being banned that he described as pornographic. Okay, so he's making it sound like they're smut books. You know, like your kids just reading a, I don't know, a fan fiction about people having sex is what it, he almost made it sound like. And I don't imagine why anyone would want their children to read a book about people having sex or just porn, smut, 50 Shades of Grey. You're not putting that in kids' hands. Why would you do that? As a parent, if you wanted to do that, that's your prerogative. But as a public, educator, for school libraries, you're not going to find 50 Shades of Grey. You're not going to find actual fucking smut. That's ridiculous. But that's what this guy was making it sound like, right? So he's showing these people who were fighting it and trying to get the books back and shit. And he's like, all right, so what is actually wrong with these books? Do you want to here's what the books are. And he showed some pictures, blurred out of course, of what was in these books, supposedly. And from what I saw, it really wasn't even that bad, and it was also without context. So I think you have to accept the reality that sometimes in children's books, depending on what age, I mean, we weren't talking about kindergartners here, but even if we were, like, there are some things that, given the right context, could be understandable. Um, and based on the images that I was shown, I really don't even know what I was looking at for half of them. I couldn't even imagine a context surrounding them. Um, but I am 100% confident that that whole situation was taken out of context. But this was how the guy framed it. He goes, this is what the radical leftists want. They're groomers. So this was all just an elaborate way to call these people groomers. And I thought to myself, gee, based on the images you're showing, based on the story, the narrative here, it does sound like you're talking about groomers. It sounds very weird that an adult would be going out of their way to try and show children pornographic images. When you frame it that way, that sounds horrible. But then what he takes it and twists it into is everyone who considers themselves to be a leftist wants to show porn to your children and is a groomer, which is a weird leap in logic. And what I started thinking about was where did this where did this goal come from? This narrative that, the leftists are groomers and everything. Where did that start? And I thought about it and I said to myself, you know what? I don't think that we have an issue of adults trying to show porn to children. I think that we're trying to take that issue and turn it into something that it isn't. Because what it really started with is hatred against people who are different, LGBT people, anything like that, anything that's different, anything that's going to teach children diversity and acceptance, pretty much. Um, just acceptance of the fact that there is diversity, because it's not even an opinion. It just there is diversity. It exists. There's people who are different. Period. It's not an opinion. Um, and we should be teaching people that and teaching people that that's okay. Um, you should be proud of your differences, because the alternative would just be blending in and not even providing anything unique to the world at all. And that's sad. You shouldn't be comparing yourself to other people in the first place. These are good things we should be teaching people, but instead we have people who want everyone to fit a cookie cutter mold, want everyone to be the same, want to control the way you think, who you sleep with, what you do with your body in general, you know, when and how you can get married, whether or not you can get divorced in certain circumstances. There's a million things these people want to control. These people want to stop you from being able to do, and they want to do it under the guise of family values and Christian values, and they want to frame it as they're stopping the evil groomers and they're protecting children. They always find some virtuous narrative, but it's all rooted in hatred against people that are different. So they take something like, homosexuality being depicted or implied in a book, and they get mad about it because they don't want their kids seeing any of that shit, right? And then they're like, all right, but people aren't going to buy that. If we're that open about just hating gay people, then we're boxing out gay people, right? We want we want even gay people to be on our side. So we have to make it sound like it's not gay people we hate, it's groomers. And so they frame it in a way that anyone in their right mind would see that and be like, wow, that's really messed up. Is that what the left stands for? I'm not about that shit. And then they join the right. And they don't realize that what they're joining is literally a cult. It's a weird hive mind situation, where they just all regurgitate the same weird rhetoric, and it's so unhealthy and it's completely unchanging. It's been the same for a long, long time. Everything in Project 2025, for example, that's all old news. They've wanted to implement that shit for a long time. It's not new information. Um, and the scary part about Donald Trump getting elected is that if he does win the election, they're ready to implement it. Like, they've got it locked and loaded. Um, so if he wins, it will be very, very destructive, and people are going to realize what they just voted in. I don't think it's going to even take very long. In fact, I don't even know how long he'll be president for. It could just be J.D. Vance slipping in right after. Because Donald Trump is starting to lose his fucking mind. I don't know if you've noticed. If you pay attention to the shit he's been saying at his rallies, oh my God, he is gone. He's like really just completely lost his shit. He's talking about how people don't know what phone apps are. I mean, Kamala Harris is letting immigrants in on her phone app. Most people don't even know what phone apps are. That's what he said. There is no context that can make that okay. This is a grown man we're talking about who wants to be in one of the most powerful positions a person can be in on this planet. And a scary amount of people want that. And it's not because they really, really love and worship him. Some of them it is. But it's because of the hate campaign against his opponent. They really go hard attacking Kamala. I see a lot of comments, how could anyone vote for her? What's wrong with her? There's a lot of hatred there. Again, same thing. The hatred is because she's a woman, and on top of it, she's not white. So, we've got this rhetoric that's rooted in racism and sexism, but they start looking for other excuses. They start with the hatred, then they try to make up reasons why they hate her, and then they start looking for things. They're like, she's this, she's that, she's blah blah blah. A lot of the stuff that people have been calling her isn't even until recently. They've been calling her like a communist and a Marxist and stuff. I'm not even going to get into that. I'm not going to share my opinions on those things right now, but they've been calling her these things for like 2 months, something like that. Whenever she made a comment about how she planned on making price gouging illegal, basically said something like that, and people said, you're a communist. I want to be overcharged for my groceries. I don't know what the people are even thinking, but they called her a communist, and that's their thing that they say about her now. What were they saying before? Exactly. A lot of the negative shit you hear about her isn't even that old. So why did you hate her before this? Do you even know? A lot of these people don't even know. They just see her and they're like, I don't like the way she laughs. And I know what I'm talking about. I read these people's comments. I look at videos of her on social media. I see the shit people say. By the way, people have been tuning in and out the whole time. I haven't gotten a single comment. So people have been tuning in and watching and then leaving. And that irritates me in a way I can't even explain, because why are you watching and then not commenting anything? That drives me nuts. Say something, man. Come on. It's been 15 minutes, not a single comment. I don't know you're here if you don't comment. Like, because sometimes YouTube will lie to me and tell me people are watching when they're not. And sometimes it'll do the opposite and it'll tell me that no one is watching when someone is. So YouTube lies to me. I don't know you're here unless you leave a comment. Please leave a comment. Anything. Just say hi or here. Do like a head count. Excuse me. So anyway, people don't even know why they hate her. And I see the things people say about her. I see the negative things people think about her. They're so convoluted and so disorganized. I could give you an organized and very specific list of the reasons that I don't like or trust Donald Trump with any kind of position of power. And you could not do the same for Kamala Harris. You just couldn't. Now, that doesn't mean that she's a perfect person. That doesn't mean that she's going to save the country. But she's certainly not going to destroy it in the way that Donald Trump will. We have a lot of work to do, and she is going to be a step in the right direction. She isn't the end-all be-all solution. We cannot vote for her and then be done. We have to keep fighting. We have to keep talking about this. We have to keep everything that we do. We have to keep doing it and do it more. There's no time for sleeping on issues or pretending that issues aren't as bad as they are. Because think about how close this election is. There is a very real chance that Trump could win, just as there's a real chance Kamala could win. It could go either way. We won't know until the election. And that should scare you. It should scare you that he even won in 2016, And again, it was because of who his competition was. It was also because I think a lot of people didn't take him that seriously and didn't even bother voting against him, which did not happen in 2020. I think at that point people were tired of him, and that's why he got voted out. That's my theory. But now people are tired of Joe Biden, and no one was going to vote for him, so he dropped out, and now his vice president is the candidate. And they keep trying to say, she's been in the White House for 3.5 years. Why hasn't she done all the things she's talking about doing? Okay, well, first of all, she and Biden have been busy cleaning up your mess, Donald Trump, that you left for them to clean up when you got out of the White House, and you did not go quietly or gracefully at all. You haven't even said that you plan on going quietly if you lose this election. You know what he said? He goes, if it's fair, I'll go quietly. What does that mean? And how are you going to decide if it's fair? Huh? How did you decide that the last one wasn't fair? Where was your proof? A scary number of people really believe that the last election was fraudulent. I don't even want to. It's insane. But but it's the same thing that I've been talking about. Their version of proof is the same version of proof that flat earthers use. It's the same version of proof that people use when they don't trust any kind of authority except theirs. So they make up authority figures and they appoint people as authority figures and they sort of decide on their own that they know what they're doing. But the problem is when you reject authority in that way, you're not really rejecting authority as much as you are just, rejecting logic. It's sort of like if your mom says don't run in traffic and you say, I don't trust authority. Should I run in traffic? Well, it seems like a good idea, and that guy on the other side of the street keeps motioning for me, so I'm gonna run in traffic. That mom doesn't know what she's talking about. And then you run in traffic and you get hit by cars. Yes, it is good to have agency. It is good to use your own logic and not just trust things blindly, to look through data yourself and make sure it makes sense. But you have to understand, especially when it comes to scientific things, you can't always read the data in the same way. You have to go get educated. You have to sometimes just trust someone who actually has an education and knows what they're talking about. And if you don't want to trust them and take their word for it, go get that education yourself. And if you can't afford to, stop talking about it like you know what you're talking about. You didn't bother to get an education. You might have excuses for why you haven't, but that doesn't excuse you yapping about it when you haven't. That'd be like if I walked into a bakery knowing absolutely nothing about baked goods and I started yelling at the chef, you know, and he goes, "You're not even a baker. You don't know the first thing about this." And I go, "I know. I don't have time for that shit, but I know it doesn't taste good." You know what I mean? Like, you can't talk if you don't even know what you're talking about. So then you get your baker, and then you maybe will bake it better than him, or maybe you'll come up with a different result. You know what I mean? Like, whatever the situation is, maybe you're right. Maybe you will find out that you're right, but you don't have any legs to stand on other than it doesn't feel right, doesn't make sense. That's the way flat earthers think, right? They don't believe scientists, but they themselves are not scientists. And, they think that there's a giant conspiracy, worldwide conspiracy, where somehow no one's ever broken the lid on this. No one's ever admitted the truth. Lots of people know it, but they won't admit it. Why? What is to be gained from lying about this? They can't tell you. They say, money, money, people are making money. How? Because money is made from it. People make money from lying. How? Tell me where the money is being made. Tell me how this lie is making people rich. They can't do it because it makes no sense. That's what you have to do with these people. You have to confront them and back them into a corner. Don't let them, keep trying to find ways around it, because there are some questions that they just don't have answers to, because everything that they believe is based on emotion, which is very ironic that they say that about the other side. They love that. They love to say, oh, you vote emotionally. Voting for Kamala is an emotional vote. No, it's not. Voting for Trump is an emotional vote. It's a whiny vote. It's a pathetic, insane vote based on believing someone's lies. J.D. Vance was so adamant about not being fact-checked in his debate. And one of the things that Trump complained about in his debate was, how come they're fact-checking me and not Kamala? First of all, maybe they're a little biased, but second of all, any comment on the fact that you kept getting fact-checked? Shouldn't that concern you, that they kept having to correct you? You kept saying incorrect things? Does that not give you any pause? There shouldn't have been anything to correct you for. Maybe start speaking actual facts instead of just walking onto a stage and thinking you can just spout whatever nonsense you want and they'll just let you do it. Like, that is insane. So I can't speak as to why Kamala Harris didn't get fact-checked. Maybe she didn't say anything that wasn't true. Maybe she did and they just didn't bother to correct her because, maybe they really just don't like Donald Trump and maybe they're afraid of him getting elected, like a lot of people are. Most people who genuinely don't like Donald Trump are actually afraid of him getting in office. It's a scary, unnerving thought. So doing anything to make him look good is probably going to make them uncomfortable, even if it's fair game. But like I said, I really can't speak to that. I don't know the moderators. I don't know Kamala or Trump personally either. That's, there were a few people there. I don't know any of them, so I can't speak to the reason that, they were fact checking Trump more often. Just based on what I know about them, I think the reason they were fact checking Trump more is because he was spouting a lot of nonsense during that debate. And he really made himself just look like a crazy conspiracy theorist uncle who no one wants to be around at get-togethers. The family gathering person who just rants and raves about nothing out of nowhere, and everyone's just awkwardly trying to find another room to go to. Like, uh-oh, Uncle Dave is at it again. But, yeah, so that's what Trump has become. And I will admit, Kamala Harris did give some non-answers. Like, they asked her, do you think the economy is better today than it was 4 years ago? And instead of answering, she just started talking about her plan for the economy, which, for her politically is probably smart, because the answer to the question, is the economy better today than it was 4 years ago, is just no, it isn't. But then she would have to explain why, and it's easier to just explain what her plan is instead. But Donald Trump, you could ask him the same question. You could say, how is the economy doing? And he would somehow start talking about how he has people showing up at his rallies and no one's leaving, and which, by the way, is a provable lie. Um, there's video footage of people leaving his rallies. Um, and that Kamala hires people to show up at her rallies, and he's got the biggest, best rallies ever. And in Springfield, Ohio, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. You know, you can ask him a completely sane, normal question, and not only will he not answer it, he will somehow end up talking about the most random, unrelated thing. And she was so confident that she literally told him, or told the audience, go to his rallies and listen to the way he talks and what he talks about. She knew by saying this that she was getting under his skin. He took the bait. She baited him when she said that, and she was so happy to watch him grab that because literally asked him another question, and he goes, "Okay, but first let me just comment on the rally thing." He couldn't help it. He couldn't, because she hurt his ego. You know, she said that people weren't showing up at his rallies. That hurt his ego. This man is trying to sell people $100,000 watches, by the way, which is one of the weirdest things that I've seen. And he's like, it's gold. Everyone loves diamonds. There's gold and diamonds. Who doesn't love diamonds? I know I do. I'm listening to him. I'm like, is this real? Is this satire or is this a real person selling average everyday people in this fucking economy, this horrible economy, selling them $100,000 watches, which, by the way, there is no real picture. If you go to the website to order them, it says that the watches depicted on the website might not actually look like what you'll receive. There is no official ship date, or deadline or anything, so they could just be shipped to you indefinitely. Um, and it's $100,000. That is shady as hell. That is really weird and really random. Um, I don't like that. And I don't like that people can see that and still vote for him. That's insane. That's more than someone makes, in a year. And I guarantee you could work, the average person, especially the average person who supports him, could work 10 years and still not have saved up $100,000 to throw away on a fucking watch. My God. It doesn't even do anything. Just because there's gold and diamonds in it, it's not even like, you know, it's not even like an Apple Watch. There's no technology. And he's calling them the best watches. That was one of the most random out-of-pocket things. He was selling NFTs, some ugly shit with his face and dressed like a superhero. And his cult, his followers, they eat this shit up. It's the creepiest thing I've ever seen in my life. There's going to be a documentary in the future about the era of the MAGA cult, and it's going to be in the same category as, Hitler and his Nazis, and Jim Jones and the Kool-Aid shit, and Charles Manson, all the cult leaders that are known in history. Donald Trump is going to get thrown in there with him, and the MAGA cult is going to be infamously remembered. And it's going to be a phenomenon that it ever got as big as it did and as bad as it did, that there were ever as this many people supporting him. It is insane. I just find myself so disgusted and disappointed when I look at the world and I think about the news. And with the election coming up, it's been really hard for me to think about anything else because he just keeps rearing his fucking ugly head every 4 years. And he's been doing this for what, like 2015, I think, is when he's started his campaign, 2014, 2015. It's been almost 10 years of this. I've had enough. I'm 23. This has been like half my life. Just Donald Trump rearing his ugly ass face. I mean, think about some of the shit that he said. By the way, if you have not heard of or seen this movie, and even if you have seen it, it came out 4 years ago, so maybe you don't remember it, or maybe you just, haven't thought about it in a while and you need to be reminded of it. It's called Promising Young Woman. I cannot recommend it more. It cannot be overstated how good this movie is. It is literally like an advertisement for the 4B movement, which the 4B movement is something that started in South Korea, and B stands for something that I think means like no in Korean. Don't quote me on that, something like that. But basically, it's like 4 things that you're going without, which is like no men, no sex with men, no babies with men, no, like it's basically just completely cutting men out of your life. And it's a feminist movement, and it's started to take off in the US. And I think, you know, the movie Promising Young Woman is basically like an advertisement for this movement, because in Promising Young Woman, it follows this woman. It starts out, I'll tell you the opening scene. These guys are gossiping at a bar, and they're pointing at this drunk, seemingly drunk woman who's like, opening her legs and her skirt and stuff, and just looking like, just like really out of it. And she looks really out of it. So one of them dares the other, they decide to go up and talk to her, and he's talking to her, and he's like, yeah, I'm a nice guy. I'll take you home. I'll drive you home. I'll Uber you there. So then he's like, hey, my apartment is right there. Do you want to stop at my place? And she doesn't answer. So he just tells the Uber driver to take to my place. So then she passes out on the bed, and he starts, opening her legs, and she goes, what are you doing? And he doesn't answer. He just starts going in. And eventually she sits up and looks him in the eyes and says, what are you doing? And he's like, shit. So she was pretending to be drunk, and then confronted this guy as he was about to sexually assault someone who could not consent. And she does that weekly. Just, I don't know, for education, for amusement. I'm not sure what she gets out of it, but she's certainly learning from it, She's learning what men are capable of, I guess. What men are willing to do, not willing to do. And she doesn't do anything, She confronts them, makes them uncomfortable. And once they realize she's sober, she's still willing to sleep with them, but they don't want to at that point, because she's creeped them out. They don't want her unless she's drunk and out of her mind. So, yeah. She's like, isn't it a good thing that I'm not drunk? Yeah. So they have the audacity to feel creeped out by her, even after what they were just about to do to her. And that's not the whole plot of the movie. The real plot of the movie revolves around something that happened to her best friend, her childhood best friend, Nina, when they were in college. So that's what the real plot of the movie is, and I cannot spoil it for you. It's so good. But the way that it ends, it's one of those movies that just has so many good lines, and the main character, she delivers these lines so eloquently and with such confidence. She's like a master. She just knows what she's doing. And I wish that there were more people like her. I wish that we lived in a world where being like her wasn't necessary, but we do need more people as strong and smart as she is. And I think she's a shining example. So, and it just is really, really important. So I recommend watching this movie. If you've seen it and you haven't thought about it in a while, rewatch it. You'll enjoy it just as much. You probably forgot how good some of the lines are, how good the acting is, how good the message is. And when you watch it with new eyes 4 years later, given everything that we know and given the election that's coming up, it's going to feel so different. So it's not about hating men. There is a scene in the movie where a man who is also guilty of some pretty horrible things is actually looked at in kind of a positive light, you know, forgivable even, because he feels remorse, genuinely. So that is proof that what we're looking for is not men who are pussies. What we're looking for is men with integrity, men with character, and that's not something that can be found easily. Men who are humble, their egos aren't so fragile that like one little pinprick and they just pop like a balloon, that they can, you know, they can humbly admit when they're wrong, and they're not so quick to forgive themselves and feel entitled to compensation. They understand when they mess up in a way that's really bad, and they're willing to pay for it, whatever that means. You know, whether it be, you know, owing someone some form of debt, they don't feel entitled to ask for forgiveness. They don't feel entitled to say, "Hey, how could you do this to me?" Because they understand what they did. Like, if the, you know, the guy that I mentioned from the beginning of the movie, when he was confronted with her, if she had, you know, imagine if instead of being creeped out that she was sober, he actually owned up to how creepy he was being and said, "I'm so sorry." Didn't immediately get on his high horse and say, you're so weird. Why would you do this to people? What's wrong with you?" But said, "I'm really sorry. There's something wrong with me. What can I do to make it up to you?" Now, be aware that there are people who know that this is what you want to hear. There are some very genuinely dangerous, manipulative sociopaths and narcissists out there who are very good at playing a part, and they will study exactly what you want to hear. And this is not short term. Most of the time, this is not something that will happen in a brief little interaction. You know, this is someone that's going to play a major role in your life. Someone you're dating, someone you're friends with, someone you're a coworker, you know, someone who you see all the time. This isn't just going to be a one-off situation, you know, because they're it's not necessary to go that deep with someone that you're not planning on continuing to have an interaction with or relationship with. So if it was a situation like that, they're probably not going to bother faking who they really are, because they have nothing to gain from that. And that's the key here. They have nothing to gain from it. If that guy had apologized to her and said, "What can I do to make it up to you? I'm so sorry," he would have nothing to gain from that. He wasn't trying to have a relationship with her. He wasn't trying to, you know, he wouldn't be trying to do that. He wouldn't be. Oh, I have to go. My timer just went off. I'm not sure if you can still hear me, but if you can, um, he wasn't trying to have a relationship with her. He wasn't trying to do anything with her, and he wouldn't have been, you know. So then it's okay. But if someone is uh, a narcissist, they're gonna lie to you. They're gonna do all sorts of things. So here's what you look for if you want to catch that. And I gotta wrap this up because I gotta go in 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes now. Um, what you look for is their relationships with other people. Okay. So just try to check for consistency in all areas of their life, not just the way they treat you. Make sure that they're really, you know, who they say that they are. There are better ways to find that out. That's a separate video. I gotta go. I have an appointment in a couple minutes. Thank you for watching the replay. I didn't expect anyone to tune in. Unfortunately, I was right. Hopefully I'll do more of these. See you later. Thank you for watching.